I've seen a lot of comments on my Boards of Canada videos, something to the effect of, "Oh, you figured out those chords so fast." I wanted to just do a kind of a quick video using a song from the Campfire Head Phase, which I haven't heard yet. So I'm going to just kind of pick at random. Maybe I'll do a random number generator or something, since they love numbers so much, and walk you through the process of how I'm doing it, and sort of externalize my thoughts, because I believe what I'm doing is first listening for what I would call the chord quality. And that's going to be, is the chord major? Is it minor? Is it a suspension? Is it a seventh chord? Is it a power chord? Is it a ninth chord? Is it none of those things? What note is the root of the chord, which is basically the note that the chord starts on? Where is the root of the chord in relationship to a reference, meaning like the key of the song, the note that's the key. So if you're in the key of A would be the tonal center, and that's the note. Everything's going to be sort of in reference to that. But if there isn't a clear tonal center, then maybe it's just the interval between the note I heard before, or the chord, the root of the chord that I just heard before that. So in any case, it's all about relationships. I do not have perfect pitch, and I never will. All right. Oh gosh, so many to choose from. This one is exactly 5 minutes, and that intrigues me. It's called Dave and Cowboy. Okay, already what I just heard is an arpeggio or a broken chord. So I can play a block chord, which is like all the notes at once, like, or I can play it broken, meaning I play them in sequence over time. Okay, so I just heard an arpeggio from bottom to top, and now I can combine all the notes in my head and put them into a block chord inside. The other way to do it, though, is to be like, how far is the first note from the second? How far is the second from the third? How far is the third from the fourth? Or I could even go, how far is the first from the second? How far is the first from the third? How far is the first from the fourth? There's all sorts of ways, but it's all intervals. And an interval is just two notes. It's the space between them. And oh, and by the way, if you're like, how can you hear that? It's this, I think it's the same way that we recognize anything sensory. When you look at a word that you've learned, you read it. You just know, right? When you read Boards of Canada, it says Boards of Canada, right? You just see it. Same with a color. You see the Campfire Head Phase album cover and you go, there's blue. I think it's the same. I don't know. I'm not a neuroscientist, but to me, it's the same experience. If I hear a chord and I know what it is, it just shows up in my brain as being, that's that thing. Are there times where I don't know what I'm hearing? Absolutely. Same if I read a word I had never read before, I'd probably have to spell it out as opposed to just reading the entire word. So using that letters and words analogy, my first inclination is to see if I can hear something as if it's a word, as opposed to every single individual letter inside the word having to like spell it out, right? Because that takes longer. Da, da, da. So that's a suspension. It's a certain kind of suspension called a sus2. And it's made of these two perfect fifths. And it has a very specific sound. It doesn't sound like a major or minor chord because those sound very lush and rich. Like, okay. This sounds like, it's got this like open sound, almost like an orchestra warming up or something. Now let's figure out exactly what note's going to start on. Now, since I don't have perfect pitch, I'm going to have to hum the note that I'm hearing at the bottom, feel how low or high it is in my voice, which gets me into kind of a ballpark. Like I know what the lowest notes I can sing are. So I'll usually just kind of be like, okay, well, it feels like it's not at the very bottom of my range, but it's still low. So it's probably like a D or an E or something. And sometimes I nail it, which is always exciting. I actually do think it's like a D or an E. Let's try D. Not even close. All right, so it's F sharp. So it goes. Da, da, da. Okay. And then it changes. Okay, so after the first, I'm hearing the chord change. I'm hearing different notes and it sounds like it all went up. Okay, so there's another thing. Being able to tell when a note is higher or lower. That's probably the most basic thing that you'll learn in ear training is just being able to tell. And most people can because we rely on pitch differences to survive. You know, a baby crying, really, really high, super low frequencies, danger, danger, etc. We also have pitch fluctuations in our speech, you know, and the way we inflect might change the meaning of what we're doing, right? Pitch going up, it's maybe a question. It shows that I'm not sure, right? Pitch going down sounds like I know what I'm talking about. So I'm hearing it all go up, and I think I'm hearing the same chord, but just higher. So now my job is to figure out how much higher it went. And to do that, I'm going to be listening for the root of this chord, which is in this case, the lowest note. How far up does that one go to be the root of the next chord? Here. So now I'm going to be recognizing the interval between those two notes, which is a minor third. Oh, by the way, while you're learning how to just recognize things, which can take years, let's be honest, it could take time, you can use musical references that you know well to help you. So, for example, if you have heard Simon and Garfunkel, Sound of Silence, most of us have. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Hello, darkness. That's a minor third. So you can kind of check if what you're hearing is indeed what you think it is with something that you know very concretely. Twinkle, twinkle, perfect fifth. Here comes the bride, perfect fourth. Da, da, oh, blah. That's a major third. Oh, blah, dee, oh, blah. So what I'm going to do is I used a little bit of logic, right? I'm like, I think I'm just hearing the same chord higher. So instead of going back and listening and humming those new notes to see, I'm actually just going to play it starting a minor third higher and see if it sounds right. And then if it doesn't, then I'll listen harder. But so that would be, I think that was it. Sorry, trying to do this overlap. Right? Which is insanely pretty. Yep. Okay, it's the same chord again. It sounds like a suspension. And I think it's up a whole step. Sorry. It takes a while to get to that top note. At first, it's just these. All right, so we've got... And, also another part of this is like recognizing patterns, because you can make assumptions based on patterns that you already know in music. Now, if you listen for the bottom note of all of these, it's going to go da, da, da. Always be humming. Oh my God, I made a mistake. All right, so there's actually 4 chords. The third chord and the fourth chord, I think, share some notes. I didn't recognize them as different, but when I hummed the root, I realized that I was not humming the correct root. So it goes, all right, so in that case, we're just going to take this same sus2 chord, these 2 perfect fifths stacked on top of each other. We're going to move it around starting on those notes. The is up a minor third. The now I'm not going to figure out how far away and are personally. I'm going to find out how far away is from the which was the first one. Reason being, the first one sounds like the key of the song, the tonal center, and that's like the sun of our solar system right now. So that's going to be my main reference point. I may occasionally use closer reference points to whatever I'm hearing, but in this case, that sounds closer to home, the tonal center, than it does to that. But you could do that too. You could go, figure that out. It's a big interval. I don't really want to think about it, but that's a whole step below home. Red Hot Chili Peppers. Okay, so now I can figure out the rest. All right, so. These notes here are the same between this chord and this chord. God, how pretty is that? Okay, so now they're adding some other instrumentation, and I'm listening to the sound of a new note. I'm pretty sure what they're adding is the third of this chord. So now let's play all of these like that and see if it sounds kind of right. Okay, and then it's going to be... Well, anyway, I'm going to stop it there because, of course, I'm going to have to do a whole video about this album at some point. And if this is something you want to learn how to do, well, buy my course. No, I don't actually have a course. But you can learn. You can teach yourself. You can take lessons. You can use apps to help you. The best way, though, to train your ear is to play music. It's to transcribe music that you know onto an instrument or to your voice. Hum. I need to make a t-shirt that's like, just hum it. If you can hum what you're hearing, it will improve your ear so much faster. Yeah, it's going to take time. Some people have more of a natural ability to hear these things than others, but I truly believe that everybody can do it. It's tempting to rely on ear training apps, which will essentially just drill you. They'll just play on a MIDI piano, intervals, chords, scales, and you can certainly do that. I don't recommend against it, but I wouldn't only use that because then you're going to get good at hearing things in a non-musical context. Also only with the piano timbre, because sometimes you can get really good at recognizing things from a certain instrument, but it doesn't translate as well over to something with a different timbre, or there's distortion, or there's reverb, or it just starts to get muddy. But in context ear training is actually listening to music, which doesn't have isolated intervals that you can just go like, da, da. There's drums, there's a vocal over it. And I said all those effects and things. So it's also a matter of starting to filter out the information that's not relevant at the moment. Not everybody has wiring that allows them to do that easily. If that's you, then start ear training on music that doesn't have a ton of distortion, a ton of drums, whatever, that's simpler. Don't be too hard on yourself. If you go like put on some Alice in Chains song and you're listening to like this 4-part vocal harmony and you're like, what? This is so hard, I must suck. No, you don't. That's just really advanced. Okay, well, this video was totally impromptu. I have a lot of things I got to take care of, so I'm going to go. But if you have any questions, just put them in the comments. I will try to answer them. I read all the comments, honestly, because most of the time they're so great. And with that, I say goodbye.